Hello, I'm Wendy Sherwood and I'm doing a short video on getting started with the model. I'm hoping that it's going to help some of you that are new to the model and are just starting. I know it's a lot. If you've just done the training, I know it's a lot of information to take in, and I think people can feel overwhelmed. So I've put together a few bits and bobs to talk about and a few tips, and maybe it'd be helpful. Just to explain where I am, first of all, this is a little art studio that I've got, and I'm kind of super excited because I'm training to be a portrait artist and I'm also training in children's illustration, although I'm training myself at the moment. So I have a little art studio here and I've come to record here. I know the sound and the light and everything isn't as good as if I did it at home, but I brought it here because it occurred to me that there's probably some um, parallels between learning lots of things, but for me, learning how to be an illustrator and feeling overwhelmed by that and some of the tactics I've been using to manage my anxiety, and they're probably going to sound familiar to those of you who are new to the model and have just done the training. So I've come here to use that kind of um, metaphor, I guess. And if you're using Patreon, if you're signed up to Patreon, you'll see there's a mention of metaphors a lot. Metaphors are super helpful. Okay, so in illustration style, don't get too excited, they're only words. But the first thing I want to say about if you're just got started and you're feeling overwhelmed and in a bit of a panic, the first really important thing I want to say to you is, what's the rush? Why the rush? Where is the sense that you've got to know it all now and you've got to be able to do it now, or you've got to at least be able to do it in the next couple of weeks or even in the next couple of months? Where does that come from? Because there's nothing in the training, there's nothing in the VdTMoCA book that says once you've finished reading this, once you've done this training, you must do it. Okay? It doesn't say that anywhere. So why the rush? Or why the sense that you must? And have a little bit of a think about that. It will, of course, in true VdTMoCA levels of creativity style, be absolutely linked to your level of creative ability for this task. I'm sure that you want to be able to do it and do it well. And that's speaking to the levels of passive participation and imitative participation. But the VdTMoCA is a highly complex model. It's not like any other model. You can't pick up a book and read it and know what to do. I've been able to do that with other models. Doesn't mean that I don't need some practice with it to really consolidate my understanding of it. But in the main, I would say that there are a lot of models that you can read a book and then just be able to go and do it. And the VdTMoCA is not the same as any other model. It really isn't. It's a highly complex model, and so it should be. If it's an occupational therapy model, a practice model, which it is, it's not a conceptual model that just tells you about occupational beings. It's more than that. It's a practice model that, on top of conceptualizing every single human being through the lens of occupational therapy, it also gives you guidance about what to do. That if you do X, Y will happen, and what that X should be to make that Y happen. And that it explains that for every single human being of every age, with every single condition, physical, mental health, learning disabilities, whatever, trauma, no matter how severe, and no matter what the context. So of course it's blooming well complex. And it's a lot. So if you're thinking that it's like any other model and that you can read a book or do the training and then be able to run, you won't. I tell you what will happen if you start running, you'll trip up and fall, is what will happen. So recognize that wanting to be able to do it is an admirable thing, but that's a volition of passive. I want to know the best way to do it. I want to know how to do it. I want to know what the norms are. And it's imitative, is that I want to meet those norms. And that is, of course, the pressure of your workplace, because in your workplace, the expectation is that you are an occupational therapist and you know what you're doing and that you will do your job and you'll do it well. But you can't do it well through the model when you don't know the model yet. Okay, so if you've got managers putting expectations on you that now you've done this training, we want to see the outcomes, we want to see the evidence that it works, and we want it in the next couple of months, you need to talk to them about the fact that that's really not realistic. And yeah, and I would say, and don't worry about that. It's like the VdTMoCA for me is like learning occupational therapy to some extent, not completely, to some extent, all over again. Because it's not a model about occupational performance. It's not a model about function. It's not a model about motivation. It's a model about creative ability, which is completely different to anything else that you've never learned about creative ability before. And it's a way of understanding people, human beings, that is really quite challenging to get your head around. So you are going to be learning occupational therapy through the lens of the VdTMoCA all over again. So think about when you qualified and you started out as a band 5. Just take yourself back to that first job and how you felt. Did you not have imposter syndrome? Did you not think, I'm meant to know what I'm doing, but I don't, but I'm going to look like I do? And yeah, I'm just going to show everyone that I can do it. But actually, how long it took you to just get settled into your job and even get familiar with the basics day to day of what you're meant to be doing. Never mind how long it's taken if you've been qualified a while to feel that you really do know what you're doing and how long that takes. That is the way to think about gaining understanding and knowing the VdTMoCA. It's a shift from learning to understanding to knowing, and they are different things. If you don't have the perspectives on the VdTMoCA book, you should get it, because in the first chapter I write a lot about what does it take to know the model. And much of what I understand about what it takes to know is from my own experience. I've been learning the model now for 22 years, something like that. I'm still learning it, but I know how long it took for me to feel like I really knew what I was talking about. And it was probably 10 years. And that's 10 years with most of that, a lot of that time studying the model, teaching the model, so I have to explain it to other people, researching the model. I did a master's on it, and then going on and doing a PhD on it. And I'm still learning. So probably 10 years. And I know that OTs in teams where the whole team have taken on the model together and they're a close-knit team, that they have said that even with using it, it becomes absolutely part of their practice for everything, day in, day out. They have team meetings discussing the model, sharing cases about the model. Everything is about the model, that it took them about 2 years to feel like, yeah, okay, got it sorted. So, you know, they've still got main building blocks to go on top of that. So don't rush, because you can't rush it. It's just not, you just can't do it. So take a breath. Okay. Have a think about what level it is that you're feeling the urge of, and it's probably passive to imitative. But recognize that for you to be passive participation, which is gaining norm awareness about how do I do this well and what's the best way of doing it, you've got to know it first. So to know it, you've got to explore it. So next bit of advice. My bad. I love this. Be more self-presentation. Give yourself the time to just explore without any expectations that you're getting anything right, because that's not what we do at self-presentation. Self-presentation is about exploring in order to find out. You need to explore this model to find out what is self-presentation, what is initiative, what is effort, what is task concept, what is the assessment, and how does that work? What's an unfamiliar task? You've got so much to learn, and you learn it through doing. So allow yourself time to just explore without any expectations to do it well. That's not the focus of self-presentation. So to do that, I would recommend that you spend the initial couple of months just observing, just looking for the model, just looking for what you've learned in what you can see. So the wonderful thing about the model of creativity is that you don't have to stop your practice and then start doing it a different way in order to learn the model. Just do your practice. But whilst you're practicing, think about the levels of creativity. When you are talking with a client, observe all the things that you could observe about their appearance and their behaviour and what they're saying, to look for signs of the level, particularly the volition. Don't forget, volition is king. Volition drives everything. So it's not taking any more of your time. This isn't additional work to your normal work. When you're talking to clients, when you walk down the corridor and you glance in the, I don't know, the lounge, or they don't have smoking rooms anymore, but wherever, every time your eyes set on the client, take in all that you can about what's going on and how they are with people and how they're dressed and how they're behaving and are they isolated, and take in everything and look for the levels. So you need to look for what you can see in action and then go back to the descriptions of the levels. And to help you with that, you can expect to see particular levels in particular services. So this is a diagram from an old book that had the model in it from when I started out, is that it's got a star. So if you take this as the amount of rehab potential, rehab that's possible, that's the amount that's possible. And then you put in the levels. Let's put imitative and passive up here. Imitative, passive, self-pres, self-driven, tone. Okay. At tone, you can't do rehab with people on tone. It's not possible. You don't do rehab. You're doing maintenance of life. You're doing awareness of existence and that kind of thing. But as you go up the levels, the potential for rehab gets greater. And it's all about rehab up on the higher levels. The tone, this is the amount of care. 24-hour care and supervision. For tone, it's total care. And as you go up the levels, it's less. You don't need to provide a load of care for people on imitative. That ought to go up there to imitative. Imitative, that ought to be lowered, honestly. You'd think I'd know by now. Let's put passive there. Imitative there. Imitative spatial there. It's not, you don't provide 24-hour care and supervision to someone on imitative. It's minimal to none. And what this is showing you is where the largest number of clients lie. So this, if you look at the width here, this is our biggest client group. It's self-presentation is our biggest client group. They're slap bang in the middle between care and full rehab. So if you think about your services from inpatient here, inpatient care, to community, these are the levels that you're likely to see. So for your service, you should be able to say, well, in our service, because our service is designed to provide 24-hour care, let's say in inpatient acute mental health, you should expect to see tone, self-diff and self-praise because they need that much care. But if you're working in the community, mental health or vocational rehab, you should be expecting passive, imitative, with maybe self-presentation being your lowest level. So when I say look for clients, you can reduce down, you can predict that there's a certain range of clients in terms of levels coming into your service. Some services like forensic will probably have the full range from tone to imitative. But in your day-to-day practice, just look and see if you can see the difference between clients. And what happens is that over time, you start to build up a picture of clients on certain levels. To start with, all you've got is a description, but what you need are images. It's concept formation. You need to build up the concept of someone on a particular level. And the way that we do that is through experience. So you've got your training, you've got your book, you've got your descriptors. Now you need to look for those in practice. And as you look at clients, think, oh, I think it might be passive participation, go back to the description of passive. And then go back to clients and go back to the description. You need to do this theory practice dance, back and forth dance. And what I found in my first couple of years is that when I went back to the descriptions, there'll be something in the description that's particularly relevant or observable, evident in a particular client that I'm working with, and it just clicks. So I would go for this, is aim for things to click. And I would look at it, I'll go, oh, yes, so that's what that means. Or, oh, yes, oh, I understand that now because I can see it. I saw that in my client. So things will start to click if you go back from description to observation, from theory to practice. And as you do that, you start to build up images, you start to build up concepts of your clients. So it's a bit like if you think about when you're an OT student and you were on different placements, or if you think now, if you're a mental health OT, changing jobs and going and working in neuro, let's say. Whatever job you're in, just change field completely, an age group completely. So can you imagine going into, let's say, going to work with people who have had a stroke? Let's say you're working in neuro. And you walk into that job as a band 5, 6, 7, and they say, oh, hello, Wendy. Yeah, thanks for coming. Right, you're an OT, right? Yes, you know what you're doing. Right, so there's your ward. You've got a caseload of 15. If you can get these assessments done today, please, and do your report and your treatments. Yeah, okay, lovely, have a lovely day, bye. You'd be like, think about learning this model in that way, but think about how you get to understand what someone with a stroke is like. So you'll go and read about it first. You remember going on placement? You find out you've got a placement and it's, I don't know, forensic. You read a little bit about forensic right before you go. So you've got some idea. So you start to get a concept. But then when you go to the stroke ward and you see what you've read, you see that someone is paralyzed down one side, depending on what side the stroke is on, in terms which will determine which side is paralyzed. There's the droop at the mouth. They may or may not have speech problems, etc., etc. Then what you've read is manifest. It comes to light. It makes sense because you've seen it. And that combination of what you've read with what you've seen and what you've heard, etc., etc., and what you've felt when you've done an exam or tried to help someone out of a chair, you can feel the tightening of the muscles or the paralysis. All of that goes together to help you form a concept of someone with a stroke. And over time, the more people you see with stroke, and they're all different, unique human beings, and strokes have happened in different parts of the brain, which have had different results, that over time you store, like my illustration style, you've got your filing cabinets is your brain, your memory, is that you build up more and more pictures that go into your filing cabinet under stroke. So that when I don't know, you're talking to someone and they say, "Oh, my friend's had a stroke," you've got a picture of what a stroke is like, and they might say, "My friend's got, I don't know, motor neuron disease." Then you know, if you know motor neuron disease, how they look different and why. And that's what to aim for with the model, is that over time you'll get to know what self-presentation is like, because you'll see it in your clients and you'll go back to the description and you'll link what you've seen to the description and it describing that, yes, that is what I saw. That is what it looks like. And that's what I'm saying, that sometimes you'll go back to the description and go, oh, so that's what it means. I understand that now because I've seen it today. And you might have seen it in a client that you've not seen in any other client, because we're not all the same and we're not all going to be all of the descriptors of self-praise. We're going to be some of them. So aim for things to click. If you can compare, if you're in a service where you can see clients on different levels, so you're not just working with one level, then that has its advantages, because you'll start to recognize that people on self-presentation are very different from people on passive participation or self-differentiation. And if you're able to have the same activity and literally have someone on self-presentation sitting next to someone on passive participation, and they're both doing the same activity, it is startlingly clear how different they are and that they are different levels. I've been lucky in my time, because I've done research. I have been able to sit and watch people. When I did my PhD on effort, I literally sat in on a load of occupational therapy sessions in South Africa and just observed, looking for a difference in effort. The quality, you'll hear the word quality in the model a lot, the nature or the quality of the effort of someone on self-presentation is very different to passive, because the volition that's driving it is different. Yes, so if you've got two people on different levels sitting next to each other, you can see it. And I remember also walking around the big hospitals in South Africa where it's hot and a lot of the clients are outside for most of the day, actually. For some services, clients are grouped as levels. So all the clients on self-differentiation will be on the same wards and on self-presentation. And then when you go outside, they're in different outdoor areas. And you can look at that group of people. When I say group of people, I mean 50, 100 or more, unfortunately. They still have those surfaces like that there. But you can see 50 to 100 people on self-differentiation, and then turn and see the same number on self-presentation, and they look completely different. Those kind of experiences are invaluable, but you will have those kind of experiences with working with your clients. You just need to look for them. Go back to the descriptors and keep a note. I highly recommend that you do some reflection. Don't huff and puff and sigh and go, oh, more work to do on top of everything else I've got to do. It takes minutes, but just keep a little log. Today I saw, I don't know, minimal effort in client on self-diff. It looked like this. And then just describe it, and that's it. But keep a note, because there is so much to learn that you have the potential of feeling like you're going really slowly and you're not learning much, but you'll be learning a lot. You will. Keep a note of it. If you want some little logs to reflect on, I know everyone's got learning logs and reflection logs all over the place, but there are some on Patreon on my site that you might find helpful. The most important piece of advice I can give you is do. I think some people get annoyed with me when they contact me and say, "Oh, we've done the training and we're just wondering about, what's the best way." And I said, "Just do it. Just do it. Really, just do it." "Oh, what do you mean, just do it?" Just do it. The levels are described for you. Go and look for them in your clients. Look for them also in staff. See if you can see the level in yourself. I remember the first time I saw active participation, which is the level above imitative. So active participation is the level where doing things to expected norms isn't enough anymore. We want to transcend those norms and do something original and new and improve on things, not just do it the way it's always been done. Let's come up with something new and snazzy and great. I remember the first time I saw that level, and it was in a colleague called Louise when I worked in forensic, my first forensic job. And you see it in the team meetings where whoever's in charge is saying, "Now then, we need to we need to sort out the store cupboard, the stock cupboard. It's all got into a mess. We need a system for organising it and keeping a record. Who's going to do that?" Silence. Everyone's averting their eyes. Passive participation, even imitative, not keen. Louise looks in the diary. "Yeah, I'll do that. I've got time on Tuesday." And before you say, "Well, it must be because Louise has got so much more time than us," Louise has not got any more time than anybody else. She's got caseload, ward rounds, CPAs, report writing, supervision, exactly the same, and if not more than staff on lower grades. If you're saying, "I haven't got time," you need to just check yourself on that, because we've all got time. It's 24 hours in the day. We've all got time. The difference is the volition for how you're going to use that time. So Louise does not have more time than anybody else, just that she chooses to make the time, give the time to do a task that nobody else wants to do, because she thinks she can come up with a new system that will work. So look for the people in your teams who are enthusiastic, keen, put themselves forward, get the job done. They're likely to be higher levels than potentially you are. Nothing wrong with being passive or imitative, by the way. But if you can spot the levels in colleagues and around you, that's the thing. But you've got to do something. There's no, you're not going to gain much just from reading. You need to read. You've done the training, hopefully, or are going to do the training. Now you've got to do something, even if it's just observing and making a few notes. keeping a record or chatting to someone over lunch about a level. Creative ability, you won't create anything by doing nothing. You need to have a creative response, which is a willingness to do something, a readiness to participate. Then you've got to participate with effort, with the intention to manage your anxiety, put the effort in and manage a challenge in order to get the product at the end, which is the knowledge and the understanding and the skills that you want. So you have to participate, you've got to do it. And be careful that you don't fall into the trap like some do, which I've just given an example of. Well, can you tell us, we were just wondering about, have you got any examples of, because you can read and read and read. You can watch the videos on my Patreon site. You can watch the stuff that I've got on YouTube. You can get the perspectives on the VdTMoCA book, which is all about practice, and read about what people have done in practice. But you'll never develop the ability to use the model by reading and thinking about it. You've got to do it. Just got to do it. Just give it a go, really. And that's something that I thought about with me learning to be an illustrator. Is it's very, very easy to surround yourself with resources. Get the VdTMoCA full text. If you haven't got it, you definitely need it. You shouldn't be practicing without it. That's a must. Perspectives on the VdTMoCA is optional. It is a book about practice. It's very good. You could get that as well. Then you could go on the Patreon site, join the Patreon site. I do recommend it. You can join it for free. And there's some free stuff there you can download and look at. You can get that. Then you can talk to people and find out whether they've got examples of how they do and get them. And then you could, and then you could, and then you could. And you can surround yourself with stuff. But actually, it's just avoidance. It's anxiety. It's avoiding actually having to do it. And that's why I've decided to film this here. I might have to cut to another bit of video because this might not work. But I have got all the blooming art materials I could possibly need. Really, I'm going to try and show you. I don't think this is going to work, but I'll try. Right, look at all this. I have got about 5, 6, maybe 7 different types of pencils. I've got different makes of gouache, watercolour, Posca pens, which are acrylic pens, acrylic pots. I've even got egg tempera colour, which is just raw pigment. I've got tapes. I've got 5 different types of tapes. I've got stencils. I've got a million brushes. Honestly, how many brushes can you use? And I did it last night. I was watching yet another video about drawing illustrations for children's books, and she used charcoal in a palette, like a blush. And I ordered one of them last night, so I've got that on the way now. But having all this stuff does not make me an illustrator. I've got to pick up a pen or a paintbrush and I've got to do it. And I think that the more you look at, the more you realise, the more information you've got, the more you've got to learn and understand, and the more and more you'll get overwhelmed. As if the information on the training isn't overwhelming enough. As if the model isn't overwhelming enough. You're going to make it worse. So stop gathering resources. You've got information from the training, but it's not enough. You do need the book. The VdTMoCA full text, I mean, not my book. Go. Just do it. Just give it a go. Just give yourself a few minutes every day, literally. Time it if you want. Set your timer on your phone to 4 minutes or 5 minutes and don't do any more than that. Do things like take the levels pack apart or write down some of the key descriptors of a level and put them up on the wall in the office so that you can look at them. I used to do that. I used to come back from the ward and I used to think, oh, I think maybe his self-presentation, and then I would look at the description. And then I'd look at passive and self-diff either side and go, no, I don't think it's. And I used to do that. There are lots of things you can do. There are lots of ideas around. I'm not going to overwhelm you with those. But the worst thing that you can do is nothing. I've lost count of the number of times people have contacted me and said, oh, I did the VdTMoCA training 10 months ago or last year. And yeah, we've been talking about it in the team about how we're going to go about implementing it. And I think, gosh, if you haven't used the model since you were trained 10 months or 12 months ago, you have just escalated, increased the work that you've got to put that model in practice by 100-fold. It's going to take so much more effort to go back to the levels, remind yourself all about it. What's taught, you're going to have to go through it all over again. And you probably won't feel as confident in it as you did when you finished the training. God, I would hate to have been in the position where if you wipe my memory and I know nothing about creatability and say, okay, Wendy, well, you did the training a year ago, which I now can't remember, off you go. Oh, I can't imagine the amount of work you've got to do. So don't do nothing. Get going. Just get started. You're in control of your development. You decide and think about marginal gains. Don't set massive goals. Just set a goal that is easily achievable. Look at the kind of goals you set for self-presentation. Just gain an understanding of something. Decide what that something is and get on with it. Do something to understand that thing. What else have I got? You're in control. Okay. So I think that's mostly it. There will be more stuff that I will remember and think of that I'll put on Patreon from time to time. So the key takeaways are: be more self-presentation. I would love to be just free to be self-presentation all the time. I'd love that. Be more self-presentation. Allow yourself the same conditions that we give clients, is that they are free to just explore and have fun and find out and gain understanding through the process of doing. And we're not expecting them to do it brilliantly, just to have a go. Be more self-presentation. Go from theory to practice, to theory to practice, and do that dance. If you want to look at what does it take to really know, there is a whole load about it in my perspectives book, and there's a nice little chart of the circle about how that happens. Keep a record of your progress. Set yourself little small goals. Keep a record, just a note about things that you've spotted during the day about a particular level or a particular concept. I remember actually sitting observing OTs doing an OT group. It was a jewelry making group in inpatient adult acute. And I remember just watching clients, just looking at them and thinking about their level, and I was looking at what the OT was doing and stuff. And there was an elderly gentleman who was sat back in his chair. They were all around a table with pots of beads, and they've got the cord to thread on. And he sat back in his chair. And then for him to get a bead, he had to get himself up like this, slowly, then lean forward, then put his arm forward, then reach out for the bowl, then pick up the bead, and then he'd go all the way back in his chair to thread it. And then once he'd done that, you'd have to do it all over again. Now, he's not stupid. He wasn't mute. If he wanted the beads to be closer so he didn't have to put in so much effort, he could have said, could someone just pass me the beads, please? But he didn't. The effort is important, that he could do that activity the same as everybody else, even though physically he's more incapacitated. Doing something through effort and mastering a challenge through effort is what he needed and he wanted, and he didn't reduce the effort, the challenge at all. That I thought, yes, that's effort. And then I saw in other clients the ones who had the ability and the capacity but just couldn't be bothered. And that I started to understand as minimal effort. So you'll notice lots of little things, but keep a record of things. Share what you know with others. Share your interests, concerns, confusions, triumphs with others, and find a way of reducing the distance between you as a newcomer and experts with knowledge. If you're isolated on your own in a service, or there's only a couple of you using the model in a service and nobody else around you, you need to reduce the gap between you and experts like me and a lot of my colleagues and a lot of other OTs in the country. And you can close that gap easier now than ever before. And that is to join a community. So get on Patreon. If I ask a question, ask, what do you want to learn about? Answer me. If you've got ideas of things that you want me to cover, tell me. At the end of every email, that when people are trained, I say, if I can be of any help, get in touch. Nobody ever does. Use your initiative, get involved, participate. My notes are upside down. So reduce the gap. The last thing I'll say is just a note of caution about misreading people that have been using the model, let's say a couple of years, as being experts, because it's not the length of time that makes you an expert. It will take you a couple of years just to get grounded and feel like you understand the basics, but it doesn't make you an expert. And usually during those 2 years, what people are doing is just repeating the same thing. They're kind of, they're repeating the same thing. So they can say, well, I know the model really well. They know the basics really well. But depth of knowledge and expertise takes more than just length of time. So don't be caught out by that. And I'm not saying that people are trying to catch you out, but don't misunderstand length of time with the model as expertise. So if you want expertise, you need to get close to people with expertise. And again, come to Patreon, come to me, email me, get involved with South African experts. It's February 2025 now. There's a summer school in July where 2 South African brilliant experts are coming over, and they're doing 2 whole days with OTs and OT support workers on how to apply the model through activities. You need to get close to those people. Okay. And if I can help you, which is why I put on the summer school and lots of other things, then I will. So look out for proper expertise and make use of it if you possibly can. So for now, that's all I've got to say. I'm sure that's a far longer video than I meant it to be. But yeah, if you're just starting out, don't panic. Recognize when you've got anxiety and you're avoiding giving it a go by reading stuff and asking people to give you the answers to stuff. No one can give you the answers to stuff. They can give you examples, but you need to just try it and you'll be fine. Nothing terrible's going to happen. Just give it a go. Keep in touch. Communicate with me, participate. I look forward to it. Bye.